Let me tell y'all something. Life don't always knock politely. Sometimes it just drops a whole human child on your porch at 2 a.m. in the rain like Amazon made a mistake. That night, Lord, I remember it like it's stitched into my bones. I heard this tiny, thin cry outside my door. Not like a cat, not like a neighbor's baby. No, this one sounded lost, desperate, lonely. The kind of cry that hits you right in the center of your chest and pulls you right off your rocking chair, whether you want to move or not. When I opened that old wooden door, there he was, a baby boy wrapped in a faded hoodie, shaken in the cold, and a little pink note pinned to his blanket. The writing? Oh, honey, I knew that handwriting before my brain even admitted it. My daughter, Davina, the same girl who used to scream at me for putting apples in her lunchbox. The same girl who swore motherhood wasn't gonna... And now here she was, dropping off a whole baby on my porch like he was a library book overdue. I held him. Lord, he was so small. Warm cheeks, tiny fingers, eyes still half closed from the cold. And I swear to you, the moment I tucked him against my chest, he stopped crying like he already knew. This lady, she's home. The note said, "Mom, I can't do this. I need to live my life. You take him. I'll come back when things settle." Spoiler alert, they never settled. But that's another part of the story. Back then, I didn't have time to be angry. Didn't have time to think about why Davina chose the club over her own blood. Didn't have time to think about whether I was too old, too tired, too broke, or too anything. All I knew was this. This boy needed someone, and I'd be damned if I let him feel abandoned twice in one night. So yeah, that's how I became mama again, at 46 years old. And that baby? I named him Jalen. Not her choice, mine. I didn't sleep for 3 days straight. Bottle feedings, diapers, tiny little sneezes that made me panic like he was about to stop breathing. I'd forgotten how exhausting newborns were. Or maybe I never knew. I raised Davina while her daddy worked nights, and exhaustion back then was just normal. But this time, it felt different, harder, lonelier, except also sweeter. See, Jalen wasn't just a baby. He was a second chance, a redo, a miracle disguised in a dollar store blanket. People in the neighborhood talked, of course. They always talk. That Davina girl ran off again. Ain't no man in that baby's life. That boy gonna grow up wild. Everyone had something to say. But when I held Jalen, none of their noise mattered. I stretched my pension till it squeaked. I worked weekends at the church kitchen for extra groceries. I babysat half the block's kids for diaper money. And little by little, we made a life. We made our life. Jalen grew fast. Too fast. I swear some mornings he'd wake up looking taller than the night before. Talking early, walking early. Asking questions like he was born 40 years old with taxes due. At 7, he was building little machines out of cereal boxes. At 10, he was fixing the neighbor's toaster for $5. At 13, he rebuilt my old laptop from scraps he found behind the tech store. And by 16, Lord, he wasn't smart. He was scary smart. Teacher said, "He's gifted." I said, "Gifted? Baby, he's downright expensive." He got scholarships, grants, opportunities I couldn't even pronounce. And every step of the way, he told people, My grandma raised me. She's the reason I'm anything. Not once did he ask about Davina. But she asked about him. Usually when she was broke, or homeless, or dumped, or high on dreams and low on everything else. And every time she called me, it was the same. Mom, how's he doing? Mom, is he successful yet? Mom, you think he'll want to meet me someday when I'm ready? When she was ready. Not him, not me, her. And I kept quiet, not for her, for him. Because no child, no matter how grown, deserves to know their mother dropped them off like unwanted luggage. But baby, secrets don't stay quiet forever, especially not the ones written in pink notes and selfish choices. And when Jalen turned 24, when he became a millionaire tech tycoon out of nowhere, when magazines were calling, investors were begging, and the whole world said he was the next big thing, guess who came storming back into our lives with lawyers, fake tears, and a squeeze me, I'm a mother act? Davina. And baby, what she tried to pull, what she demanded, what she thought she was owed, it would have knocked the Jesus right out of a preacher. But we'll get to that. Because before the courtroom, before the lawyers, before the lies, there was the day she walked into my house after 24 years, like she had the right to breathe my air. And Jalen heard the truth for the first time. And Lord, the way he looked at her, the way he looked at me, that moment changed everything. The morning sunlight spilled into my new apartment like it had been waiting just for me. I sipped my tea slowly, listening to the faint hum of the city below. And for the first time in decades, I felt unhurried, untangled from all the chaos that had once been my life. Marcus was already gone, likely buried in meetings or checking in with some client, but the peace in the apartment made it feel like he was still right there beside me. I leaned back in my chair, thinking about that courtroom moment, the way Marcus had stood tall, calm, unshaken by the woman who had tried for so long to claw her way back into our lives. Even now, I could feel that tension lifting from my chest. Nani's fury, her threats, the gnawing uncertainty, they were gone, truly gone. And for the first time, I realized what freedom felt like. There was a soft knock at the door, and I straightened instinctively. Sarah, of course. She had a knack for dropping by at the perfect moments, bringing warmth and energy into my quiet apartment. She carried a small basket neatly packed with fresh bread, some homemade jam, and a few pastries. "I thought you might like a little something for breakfast," she said, her smile easy and unforced. I laughed softly, a sound that felt unfamiliar even to me. "Sarah, you're spoiling me. I can't let you do that," she shrugged, setting the basket down. "Consider it a peace offering, breakfast peace offering," she said, and her laughter joined mine. The sound was comforting, like the crackle of a fireplace on a winter morning. We moved into the kitchen together, and she began unpacking the bread while I set the table. It felt normal, warm, simple, something I hadn't felt in years. "You know," I said, settling into my chair with a cup of tea, "I never imagined I'd have mornings like this at 70. I thought my days would be quiet, solitary, and filled with nothing but the echoes of the past." Sarah glanced at me, her eyes soft but attentive. "But your mornings aren't quiet anymore, are they? You've got Marcus. You've got me, and you've got this apartment that feels alive. I nodded, letting the truth sink in. She was right. Alive. For so long, I had been living cautiously, carrying the weight of someone else's mistakes and choices. But now, surrounded by Marcus's laughter, Sarah's kindness, and even the scattered photographs that reminded me of every milestone we had celebrated, life felt like it had finally caught up with me. As we ate, I found myself telling her small stories about Marcus's childhood, his first steps, the way he used to insist on reading every night, how he always had that determined look in his eyes, even as a toddler. Sarah listened with rapt attention, asking questions that showed she understood the care and effort that raising a child from infancy required. She didn't just nod politely, she really listened, connecting the dots between the stories of his past and the man he had become. You really shaped him, didn't you? She asked softly, setting her cup down. All the ways he gives back, the way he cares for people, that didn't come from nowhere. That came from you. Her words touched me deeply. I had never thought of myself as remarkable. I had simply done what any loving caregiver would do. But hearing it framed through her eyes, it was validating in a way that I hadn't realized I needed. I reached over and patted her hand. Thank you, dear. That means more than you know. After breakfast, Sarah helped me clear the dishes while I watered the small plants I'd collected over the years. Each one seemed to thrive in this new apartment, as if they too could sense the change in our lives. They remind me of you, she said quietly, brushing her fingers over the leaves of a fern. Strong, patient, and quietly resilient. I smiled, thinking about resilience. Life had demanded it from me in ways I hadn't imagined as a young woman. Raising Marcus alone, facing Nani's eventual return, the lethal threats, the emotional weight of protecting someone who wasn't even my child by blood. It all had tested me. And yet, here I was, standing taller, freer, and more at peace than I had ever been. Marcus will be— You do, I said, smiling. You know me through him, through everything we've built together. That's enough. By the time Marcus arrived, Sarah had settled comfortably into the living room, reading a book she had picked from the small shelf I had curated. Marcus's face lit up when he saw us, a genuine warmth that I couldn't help but mirror. Gamma, he said, dropping his bag by the door. Sarah and I were talking, and we wanted to ask you something. I raised an eyebrow, intrigued. He knelt slightly, reaching into his pocket, and Sarah's eyes widened in anticipation. He pulled out a small, velvet box. Sarah said yes, he said, beaming. And before we officially announce anything, we wanted you to have this moment with us. I felt my heart swell as he opened the box, revealing the elegant, understated ring Sarah had admired earlier. My eyes teared up, not just for the beauty of the gesture, but for the culmination of all the years of love, struggle, and care that had led us here. Marcus, the boy I had raised, was stepping into his future with someone who genuinely understood the meaning of family, love, and commitment. I don't know what to say, I managed, my voice trembling slightly. Of course, I bless you both. You've got my full support, my love, and my heart. Sarah squeezed my hand, a gesture of solidarity and warmth. Marcus leaned in, pressing a gentle kiss to my cheek. Thank you, Gamma, for everything. That evening, as they left, I stood on my balcony, looking out at the city lights flickering below. The past years, the hardships, the fear, the uncertainty, they had all been worth it. For Marcus, for Sarah, for the family we had built from love, choice, and unwavering care. And for the first time, I didn't worry about what tomorrow would bring, because I knew we could face it together. ... Within the balcony. The past years, the hardships, the fear. The weekend arrived with a crisp breeze that carried the faint scent of the city's early winter air. I had grown to love these moments, when the world outside moved fast, but inside my apartment, time felt measured, intentional. I spent Saturday morning tidying the living room, adjusting photos on the shelves, making sure everything was just so. Marcus had called early, his voice full of excitement. "Gamma, Sarah and I are planning a small outing today. We'd love for you to join us." I hesitated for a moment. Crowds weren't my favorite, and I'd grown accustomed to quiet mornings on the balcony. But Sarah's enthusiasm was infectious, and Marcus's eyes held that familiar sparkle I knew so well. I couldn't refuse. By mid-morning, we were walking through the park near my apartment, the same park Marcus had visited countless times as a child, the same paths I had walked with him on stroller strolls and late afternoon runs. He pointed out the old oak trees, recalling moments from his early years that made Sarah laugh and shake her head in disbelief. "He was already bossy at 4, she said with a grin. "I can't believe you survived that." I chuckled, ruffling Marcus's hair. "He had a good teacher," I said, winking at Sarah, "and a lot of patience, mine mostly." We found a bench overlooking the small pond where ducks glided lazily. Marcus leaned back, Sarah by his side, and I settled into the remaining space. For a moment, we just sat there, listening to the soft ripple of water and the distant laughter of children. I watched Marcus's hand find Sarah's, the natural way they fit together, and I felt a quiet contentment settle deep in my chest. "You know, Gamma," Sarah began after a pause, "I've been thinking a lot about family lately, about what it means to really be family, not just by blood, but by choice and care." I nodded, sensing the weight of her words. "It's a lot of work," I said softly. "It takes patience, sacrifice, and a willingness to stay even when it's hard. But it's worth it, every single day." She smiled, squeezing Marcus's hand. "I can see why he turned out the way he did. You gave him roots, and now he has wings. I hope I can do the same for the life we're building together." Marcus grinned, looking slightly embarrassed, but the pride in his eyes was unmistakable. I felt my heart swell, watching the two of them share this quiet moment, knowing the foundation of their love was strong because it was built on the care and resilience that had carried Marcus through his entire life. As the day wore on, we wandered through the park, Sarah pointing out little things, a patch of late-blooming flowers, a squirrel daringly darting across the path, and Marcus recounting stories from his childhood. I felt like an observer and a participant at the same time, part of their new world, but still holding the weight of all we had survived together. By late afternoon, we ended up at a small cafe on the corner of the park. The kind with mismatched chairs and the smell of fresh coffee drifting through the open doors. Sarah insisted I try the homemade apple tart, and I did, savoring each bite, while Marcus teased me about my inability to eat just one piece. Laughter came easily, filling spaces that had once been heavy with fear and uncertainty. Over coffee, Marcus leaned in, his voice low. "Gamma, I wanted to ask something, a little serious." I raised an eyebrow, curious. "Oh? Should I be worried?" He smiled, shaking his head. "No, just, your opinion matters a lot to me. Sarah and I are thinking about moving into a bigger place next year. Maybe a small house. Somewhere we can start planning a family, host dinners, build a life together. I want to know if you'd like to help us pick it out. Maybe even help make it feel like home." My chest tightened with emotion. The thought that Marcus not only wanted to include me, but to actively involve me in shaping this next chapter was overwhelming. "Of course, sweetheart. I'd be honored." Sarah reached over and took my hand, her grip warm and reassuring. "We want you to be part of this, Gamma. Your love and wisdom mean so much to both of us." I blinked away tears, smiling at them both. "Well then, it sounds like I'll be doing some serious house hunting." As we walked back toward my apartment, Marcus and Sarah discussing paint colors and layouts with the kind of excitement that only comes from imagining a shared future. I realized how far we had come. The fear, the threats, the shadows of the past, they were no longer dictating our lives. I felt grounded, secure, in a way I hadn't dared to hope for. Later that evening, as I sat alone on the balcony, the city lights twinkling below, I thought about the twists and turns of my life. From the night Marcus had been left on my doorstep, to the court case with Nani, to the quiet moments like today, filled with laughter, warmth, and love. I had been through storms, sure, but they had brought me here, to this moment, to this family, to this peace. I realized then that the real victories weren't in courtroom judgments or legal battles. They were in these small, everyday affirmations of love and trust, in the choice to stay and care when others walked away. That what we build with care can endure, can thrive, and can carry on the legacy of love we fight so hard to protect. As the city darkened and the first stars appeared overhead, I felt a deep satisfaction settle over me. Tomorrow we would continue planning, dreaming, living, and I would be right there with them, part of the story, part of the life that had grown from the smallest, most unexpected beginnings. Monday morning brought with it a calm I'd learned to savor. The city buzzed outside my apartment window, but inside, the quiet hum of routine grounded me. I brewed my coffee slowly, savoring the rich aroma that had become a comforting ritual over the years. Marcus called as promised, his voice bright and cheerful. "Good morning, Gamma! How's my favorite lady today?" I laughed softly. "I'm good, sweetheart. How's my grandson and his fiancée?" "Sarah's great," he said. "She's been planning a little surprise for tonight. But don't worry, it's nothing stressful. Just fun." The day passed with small chores and errands, the kind that gave life its rhythm. I ran into a few neighbors in the lobby, exchanged pleasantries, and even managed a short walk around the block. But all the while, I was thinking about tonight. Marcus and Sarah's excitement was contagious, and I found myself humming softly as I prepared the apartment, straightening cushions, setting the table, and making sure the lighting was warm and inviting. When the doorbell rang that evening, I opened it to find Marcus and Sarah standing there with wide grins. Sarah held a small bouquet of flowers, while Marcus carried a wrapped box. "Gamma, come on! This is part of the surprise," Marcus said, practically bouncing on the balls of his feet. I followed them into the living room, curious, only to find a cozy setup waiting. A picnic-style blanket laid out on the floor, soft lights strung around the room, and a spread of little dishes, things Sarah had prepared with her usual care. "We thought we'd bring a little outdoor picnic inside," Sarah explained, her eyes sparkling, "especially since the weather's turned cold, and we wanted to do something fun together." I felt my heart swell. They'd gone to so much effort, thinking of me, wanting to share joy. "You two really didn't have to," I said, settling on the blanket beside them. "Gamma, this is for you," Marcus said, handing me the wrapped box. I opened it to find a small, handmade photo album. Each page was filled with snapshots. Marcus as a toddler, first steps, birthdays, school recitals, all the little moments we'd cherished together. But there were also notes, Sarah's observations, memories she'd noticed from the stories Marcus had told her, and even little doodles. I could hardly speak, my eyes watering. "It's beautiful," I whispered. "I can't believe you remembered all of this." Marcus shrugged, looking embarrassed but happy. "We just wanted you to see everything you've done for me, Gamma, to show you that it mattered, but it's all part of why I am who I am today." Sarah smiled gently. "You gave him roots, Gamma, and he's giving back in ways you may not even notice every day. We just wanted you to have something tangible, something that reminds you of the impact you've made." I turned the pages slowly, reliving memories I had tucked away for years. The laughter, the tears, the sleepless nights, the victories and failures, the quiet moments of joy and triumph. They were all there. Every photo told a story, but it was the notes that brought me to tears. Marcus had written, "Gamma, you're my hero. You showed me love when I had none, and strength when I couldn't find my own." I pressed the album to my chest. "You don't know how much this means to me," I said, my voice catching. Marcus hugged me tightly. "I think I do," he whispered. "You'll always know, Gamma. Always." The rest of the evening passed in laughter and stories. Sarah had prepared little games, reminiscent of childhood picnics, and we all joined in. At one point, Marcus leaned back and looked at the two of us, smiling warmly. "I'm so glad you two get along," he said softly. "I was worried at first, but now I can't imagine it any other way." Sarah squeezed my hand. "Gamma, you've raised the man I love. That alone makes you family to me. But you're kind, funny, and wise, too. You've welcomed me, shared your life, and treated me like one of your own. I couldn't ask for anything more." I laughed, shaking my head. "Well, I've had a lot of practice raising him. You just have to survive the test now." She laughed with genuine joy, and I realized something important. The love and trust we shared weren't just about the past. They were about the present and the future, the family we were building together, brick by brick, choice by choice. Later, after dinner and games, Marcus brought out a small, wrapped envelope. "Gamma, Sarah, and I have one more surprise," he said. I opened it to find 2 tickets for a weekend trip, a getaway to a quiet cabin in the mountains. "We want you to come with us," Marcus explained. "It's a celebration of everything we've built, of family, love, and new beginnings." I looked at them both, feeling an overwhelming gratitude. "You're really spoiling me," I said, laughing softly through my tears. "No," Sarah said, shaking her head. "We're celebrating us. All of us. You, me, and Marcus. You've made everything possible, Gamma. We just want you there with us." I nodded, my heart full. "I'd be honored," I said. As they left that night, I lingered on the balcony for a while, watching the city lights flicker like tiny stars. The world felt alive, full of possibilities, and I realized just how much I had grown alongside Marcus. I wasn't just his guardian or grandmother. I was part of something bigger, a chosen family, a life built on love, trust, and resilience. And for the first time in decades, I didn't fear the past. I didn't dread the future. I simply existed. When we arrived at the cabin, tucked away between pine-covered hills, I was struck by how peaceful it was. The kind of peace that feels like it seeps into your bones. Marcus flung open the door with a grin. "Welcome to your temporary escape from the city, Gamma!" He and Sarah ushered me inside, showing me the cozy fireplace, the soft blankets, and the small balcony that overlooked a valley dappled in the golden light of late afternoon. I could smell the crisp mountain air, tinged with pine, and for a moment I simply closed my eyes and breathed it in. "This is incredible," I murmured, finally opening my eyes to take it all in. Sarah smiled knowingly. We wanted somewhere quiet, where we could just be together. No distractions, no deadlines, just us. We spent the afternoon settling in, unpacking a few things, and then taking a slow hike down a trail that curved around a small, sparkling stream. Marcus walked a little ahead, holding Sarah's hand, and I followed at my own pace, taking in the sounds and smells that felt almost like magic. For once, I didn't feel the weight of the past, the fears that Nani's return might cast a shadow over our lives. This was our bubble of calm, our sanctuary. As the sun dipped lower, painting the sky with pink and gold, we returned to the cabin, tired but happy. Marcus had taken the initiative to start a small fire, and soon we were gathered around it, roasting marshmallows and sipping hot chocolate Sarah had prepared. "Gamma," Marcus began, his voice quieter than usual. "I wanted to tell you something important." I looked at him, curious. He held my gaze with that earnestness I'd known since he was a boy. "I've been thinking a lot about the future. Not just mine, but ours. The family we've built. The life you've helped me create. I don't ever want anything or anyone to take that away from us." I nodded, touched by his words. "You've already made sure of that, Marcus. You've built a life of your own, and you've chosen the people you love. That's stronger than any shadow from the past." Sarah reached over, resting her hand over mine. "Gamma, you've been part of every step Marcus has taken. You've shaped him in ways that no one else could. And now, we want you to be part of the next chapter too. We can't imagine this life without you fully in it." I felt tears prick my eyes again. "You make me feel important. All these years, I've just tried to do right by him. Never thought I'd feel like I mattered this much in the big picture. Marcus chuckled softly. You've always mattered, Gamma, but now you get to see it too. And soon, Sarah and I will start planning a wedding, a life together. And we want you there at every step, not just as family, but as someone we rely on, someone whose voice and presence we cherish. Later, after the fire had died down and we were wrapped in blankets on the couch, Sarah shared stories from her own childhood. Her voice carried the same warmth I remembered from watching her interact with Marcus. She spoke of her parents, her hometown, and the small hardships that shaped her resilience. I realized that she wasn't just someone Marcus loved. She was someone whose character had depth, kindness, and a sense of responsibility. Someone I could trust with him. As night deepened, Marcus excused himself to make a call for work, leaving Sarah and me alone. Gamma, she said softly, I want you to know that I understand the sacrifices you made, the love you gave without hesitation, and the life you built from scratch. It's inspiring. I want to honor that, not just in words, but in the way I care for Marcus and the life we'll share together. I reached over and squeezed her hand. Sarah, I already trust you, and more than that, I'm happy for him, happy for both of you. That's all I could ever ask. Love doesn't have to be complicated, and it doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real. And what you two have, that's real. The weekend continued with laughter, walks in the forest, long conversations, and quiet evenings by the fire. I watched Marcus and Sarah interact, noticing how seamlessly they fit together. I thought about the journey that had brought me here, the fears, the sacrifices, the battles with Nani, the quiet triumphs, the small victories of everyday love. I understood in that moment that family wasn't just about blood or obligations. It was about choices, trust, and devotion. It was about showing up, even when the world had abandoned you. And for the first time, fully, I felt the weight of those 25 years lift off my shoulders. Not because the past had been erased, but because the present was so rich and full of love, laughter, and security that the shadows had no place to linger. As I turned to go inside, Marcus and Sarah appeared in the doorway, smiling sleepily, but happy. Marcus hugged me tightly. Thank you for being you, Gamma, for everything. I hugged him back, my heart full. Always, sweetheart, always. That night, I slept deeply. The kind of sleep that comes from knowing you are exactly where you're supposed to be, surrounded by love and family that chose each other. Tomorrow, the planning would begin. The wedding discussions, the excitement, but tonight, I simply savored this peace, this family, and the quiet, unshakable certainty that love had won again. The weeks after our mountain retreat felt like a gentle settling of dust after a long storm. Life returned to its usual rhythm, but now with an added... His expression was a mix of hesitation and urgency, which immediately caught my attention. I wiped my hands on a towel and followed him into the living room. I got a letter today, he said quietly, handing it over. I recognized the handwriting immediately. It was Nani's. Even after all that had happened, seeing her penmanship made my stomach tighten. I opened it carefully, bracing myself for whatever venom she might try to inject. The letter was short and clipped, far less elaborate than her courtroom theatrics. She claimed she wanted closure and insisted she had changed and wanted to see Marcus once more. There was an undercurrent of expectation, though, as if she still believed she had some entitlement over him. My first instinct was to toss it, but Marcus held my hand. "What do you think, Gamma?" he asked softly. His voice carried a mixture of determination and curiosity. The same look I remembered when he was a boy trying to figure out the world. I took a deep breath. "I think this isn't about closure, Marcus. It's about control. She can say she's changed all she wants, but her actions in the past 24 years speak louder than words." Marcus nodded slowly, understanding that my caution was rooted in experience. "I'm not planning to see her," he said, "but I wanted you to know." That evening, Sarah came over after work, her face bright but curious. When she saw the letter, she raised an eyebrow. "She wrote?" I nodded. "She thinks she still has a place in his life, but she doesn't. Not unless he chooses to let her." Sarah reached out, giving Marcus a supportive squeeze on the shoulder. "Whatever you decide, we'll support you. That's what family does." It struck me then how natural it felt, how seamlessly Sarah had become a part of our little unit. She wasn't just someone Marcus loved. She was someone I could trust with my heart as well. Someone who understood the importance of protecting the people we cared about most. A few days later, I found myself alone on the balcony, watching the sunset, reflecting on everything that had happened over the past 25 years. From the night Marcus was left on my doorstep, through sleepless nights and endless worry, to courtroom battles and quiet dinners, it all felt like one continuous thread of care, sacrifice, and love. I realized that the family I'd built wasn't defined by blood. It was defined by choice, and the people who had chosen to stay, to love, and to protect were the ones who mattered most. Then came the first challenge we hadn't anticipated. One morning, a man appeared at our door, introducing himself as Nani's lawyer. He claimed he had new information to share with Marcus, a supposed reason why she might be entitled to contact him again. My heart sank, but Marcus stood firm. "Gamma, I've got this," he said, shutting the door gently but firmly in the lawyer's face. I watched him, my chest swelling with pride. Even after everything, he was the same boy I'd raised, strong, compassionate, and resolute. That night we gathered for dinner, Sarah, Marcus, and I. The tension of the day lingered, but we tried to focus on what mattered. Marcus held Sarah's hand across the table and smiled at me. "I don't need anyone else, Gamma. Not her, not anyone. This, us, is enough." Sarah nodded, her eyes glistening. "You've already built the life you want, Marcus, and you've chosen well." It was moments like these that reminded me why I had fought so hard. Not for money, not for recognition, not even for Marcus to owe me anything. I had fought for the right to love, to protect, and to build a family that could weather anything. And in return, I received the kind of peace and trust that no courtroom or letter could ever give. The weekend arrived, bringing with it a flurry of planning for the engagement. Marcus wanted Sarah's favorite flowers, a menu that reflected both their tastes, and a quiet evening where we could all celebrate together. I offered suggestions. He listened carefully, and Sarah's gentle humor kept us laughing through every minor debate over candles and centerpieces. Late Saturday evening, after the planning was complete, We all sat by the window, watching the city lights twinkle like scattered stars. Marcus leaned back in his chair, sighing contentedly. I used to worry about the future so much, Gamma, but now it feels like everything is falling into place. I smiled, reaching across to squeeze his hand. It has, sweetheart. You've built something wonderful, something real, and you did it with love and integrity. That's worth more than anything she could ever have offered you. Sarah leaned her head on Marcus's shoulder, and I felt a quiet joy settle over me. It wasn't the dramatic thrill of revenge or the court victories. It was the gentle, unshakable happiness of watching a family thrive. As I prepared for bed that night, I thought about the journey ahead. Nani might try again. There might be new complications. But I knew this. The love we had built was stronger than any threat, more enduring than any shadow. I had learned over the years that life wasn't about avoiding difficulties. It was about facing them with courage, wisdom, and love. And as I drifted off to sleep, I felt a certainty I hadn't felt in decades. Whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together as a family by choice, a family by heart, and nothing, no abandonment, no betrayal, no outsider could take that away from us. The days leading up to Marcus and Sarah's wedding started to feel like a whirlwind of excitement, plans, and small anxieties. Even though I'd raised Marcus for 25 years, nothing had prepared me for the sheer joy of seeing him about to step into a life so full of promise. Sarah had proven herself to be more than just the woman he loved. She was a partner, a confidant, and someone I trusted implicitly to protect his heart, just like I had. It was a sunny Thursday morning when the first real test of our peace arrived. The doorbell rang sharply, breaking the quiet hum of the apartment. Marcus had just left for an early meeting, and Sarah was downstairs picking up last-minute flowers. I paused for a moment, instinctively sensing that this wasn't a casual visit. I opened the door to see a woman standing there, her posture rigid, eyes sharp and calculating. My breath caught. There was no mistaking her. Nani. Gamma, she said, her voice smooth, almost syrupy, but with an edge that hinted at the danger beneath. I just wanted to talk to Marcus before his wedding. I promise it will be quick. I stepped forward, blocking her path. There's nothing to talk about. You're not welcome here. My voice was calm but firm, carrying decades of protective instinct. Nani's smile didn't reach her eyes. I think you misunderstand. I'm not here to cause trouble. I just want a moment with my son before he makes the biggest commitment of his life. I could feel the anger simmering, but I controlled it. He's not your son. He's the son I raised. And Marcus is happy with his life, with the family that chose him. You've had your chance. Her eyes narrowed, the sweetness fading into something colder. You think you can keep him from me forever? I shook my head, my heart steady despite the surge of adrenaline. I don't need to keep him. He knows who has always been there for him. That's me, and Sarah. That's his family. You're the outsider. For a moment, she looked like she might argue, but then she straightened, straightening her shoulders as if preparing for battle. This isn't over, you'll see. With that, she turned sharply and walked away, leaving me standing in the doorway, my pulse racing. I shut the door and leaned against it, taking a deep breath. Sarah arrived moments later, her expression curious. "Gamma, what happened?" I handed her the now crumpled letter I had retrieved from my purse. "She's back, and she thinks she still has a place in Marcus's life." Sarah read it quickly, her brow furrowing, then looked up at me. "She's not going to disrupt our family, right?" I shook my head firmly. "Not if I have anything to say about it. Marcus and I built this life together. It's ours, and I'm not letting anyone come in and try to take it away." The tension of that morning lingered throughout the week. Marcus noticed my unease, of course, and when I finally told him what happened, he was both angry and incredulous. "After everything," he said, "she has no right, Gamma. None." "I know," I said, reaching across to squeeze his hand. "But some people never truly let go, even when they should. That's her problem, not yours." The wedding preparations continued, though, and slowly the excitement began to overpower the tension. Marcus and Sarah had chosen a small, intimate venue, the kind where every guest could feel the warmth of the occasion. I helped with the decorations, arranging flowers, candles, and little touches that made the space feel personal. It was a joy to see Marcus so relaxed, laughing easily with Sarah as they finalized the seating chart. On the day of the wedding, the sky was a perfect shade of blue, and the air was warm but gentle. Marcus looked like he had always belonged in that moment, strong, kind, and entirely at peace. Sarah was radiant, her smile lighting up the room, and I felt a swell of pride as I watched them together. When it came time for me to walk Sarah down the aisle, an honor she insisted I have, I felt a rush of emotion. This was more than a wedding. It was the culmination of years of love, sacrifice, and protection. I placed my hand gently on Sarah's arm, guiding her forward, and whispered, "You're part of this family now. Take care of him, and he'll take care of you." She smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "I will, I promise." As the ceremony began, I looked around at the faces gathered there, friends, family, people who had supported us through thick and thin. And I realized, with a quiet satisfaction, that we had won. We had built a family that chose love, loyalty, and care above all else. No letter, no visit, no threat from Nani could take that away. Marcus and Sarah exchanged vows, their voices steady, filled with love and commitment. And when they kissed, the applause that followed felt like more than celebration. It was a recognition of the battles fought, the challenges overcome, and the peace finally earned. Later, during the reception, I watched Marcus and Sarah dance. They moved in perfect sync, laughter spilling freely, the kind of easy joy that only comes when you are truly comfortable with the life you've built. I felt a tap on my shoulder and turned to see Sarah. "Thank you, Gamma," she said softly, "for everything, for raising him, protecting him, loving him." I smiled, placing my hand over hers. "He's a remarkable man, Sarah. You too deserve this happiness, and I trust you'll protect him as fiercely as I have." As the evening wound down, I looked out at the city skyline, lights twinkling like distant stars. Nani had tried. She had tested our peace, but she hadn't succeeded. Marcus's choice, our family's strength, and the love we shared had carried us through. And for the first time in decades, I felt completely unshakable. Some battles are fought in courtrooms, some in hearts. But the ones that matter most, those are won by the simple, unyielding commitment to love, protect, and stand together. And as I watched Marcus spin Sarah under the soft glow of the reception lights, I knew our story, our family, was far from over. It was just beginning. The morning after the wedding, the apartment felt unusually quiet. It was a good kind of quiet, the kind that comes after a celebration, after laughter and music have faded, leaving only the soft hum of life continuing. I sat on the balcony, a warm cup of tea in hand, watching the city wake up below. For a long moment, I allowed myself to simply breathe, to take in the reality of everything that had happened over the past few months, even the past 25 years. Marcus and Sarah were still asleep, exhausted from the night's festivities. I could hear the faint clatter of dishes from the hotel where the reception had been held. They were already cleaning up, already moving forward. It struck me how much life mirrored that rhythm. The celebration, the joy, and then the return to everyday life, stronger and more resilient for having been through it. I had almost forgotten about Nani. It had been a few weeks since her last attempt to reinsert herself into our lives, and she hadn't contacted us. I hadn't heard a word, and I realized, with a quiet satisfaction, that she wouldn't. There was nothing left for her here. Marcus had chosen his path, his family, and there was no room for her manipulation to find purchase. When Marcus finally came out onto the balcony, he looked at me, still in his wedding attire, slightly rumpled, but radiant. He carried the small photo album I had prepared for him, a collection of snapshots from every stage of his life, from babyhood to that very wedding day. "Gamma," he said, his voice soft, "thank you for everything. I wouldn't be standing here without you. I hope you know that." I smiled, brushing back a strand of his hair from his forehead. "I know, sweetheart, but you've already proven it every day. You're kind, generous, and full of love. That's the man you became, and I couldn't be prouder." He handed me the album, and as I flicked through it, memories came flooding back. His first steps in the living room, his hesitant smile on his first day of school. The countless nights we stayed up reading bedtime stories when life felt too uncertain. Each page reminded me of the unwavering joy and love that had defined our life together. "I wanted to give this to you before we leave for our honeymoon," he said, "so you know, no matter where we go or what happens next, you've been the foundation of everything." Tears pricked my eyes, but I blinked them back. "You've always been my joy, Marcus. That's all I ever wanted, to see you happy and thriving." Later that afternoon, as the newlyweds packed for their honeymoon, Sarah pulled me aside. Her eyes were bright, her smile a mixture of excitement and gratitude. "Gamma, I just want you to know I will do everything in my power to protect Marcus, to honor the family you've built, and to make him as happy as he deserves to be." I took her hands in mine, feeling the warmth and sincerity radiating from her. "I don't doubt it for a second, Sarah. He's lucky to have you, and you're lucky to have him. Just keep loving each other the way he's always been loved, and that's fiercely, completely, without reservation." The rest of the day passed in a quiet, unhurried rhythm. Marcus and Sarah had already left for their honeymoon flight, and I returned to my apartment, which suddenly felt too large without their presence. But instead of feeling lonely, I felt a profound sense of contentment. The battles were over. The legal ones, the emotional ones, the years of uncertainty and fear. Our family, the one we had chosen, was whole, and nothing could take that away. I wandered through the apartment, touching the frames on the walls, the photos of birthdays, holidays, and small, ordinary moments that had become extraordinary through the lens of love. I paused at the picture of Marcus as a baby, sleeping peacefully in my arms. That little boy, abandoned by his biological mother, but embraced by me, had grown into a man of kindness, strength, and integrity. And now he had a partner to walk with him through the rest of his life, someone who truly saw him. That evening, I sat on the balcony once more, watching the sunset turn the sky into shades of pink and gold. My phone rang, and I recognized Marcus's voice immediately. "Gamma," he said, laughter and excitement in his tone. "Sarah and I just got to the hotel, and I had to call. She said yes to the honeymoon plans I surprised her with." I chuckled, a sound of pure joy. "I'm glad, sweetheart. I'm happy for both of you." He paused for a moment, and I could hear him taking a deep breath. "I just wanted to tell you one more time, thank you for raising me, for loving me, for being my family when no one else would. I don't know if I ever said it enough, but I love you, Gamma. I always will." My heart swelled. "I love you too, Marcus. Always. And nothing will ever change that." We hung up, and I sat in the quiet of my apartment, a calmness settling over me. For 25 years, I had carried the weight of responsibility, the fear of loss, and the hope that I was doing right by the child I had taken in. Now all that fear had dissolved. Marcus had a life full of love, joy, and security, and I could rest knowing that the family we had built together was stronger than anything the past could throw at us. Some people spend their lives chasing justice or revenge. Some measure success by wealth or status. But the real victory, I realized, comes from love, the kind that nurtures, protects, and endures, the kind that triumphs over abandonment and betrayal, the kind that turns a rainy October night into the greatest gift life could ever offer. And as the city lights flickered on one by one, I felt a deep, unshakable peace. Our story had come full circle. The battles were over. The family we had chosen, the love we had fought for, would carry on, stronger and more vibrant than ever. Life wasn't perfect, and it never would be, but it was ours, and that was enough. This was the story of our triumph, our love and our family, built not by blood alone, but by choice, devotion, and the courage to stand together no matter what. And as I closed my eyes, the last thought in my mind was a simple, quiet truth. Some stories don't end with revenge. They end with love. And that love, for me and Marcus, would never end.